again. It's Emily Payne here, the honest fake coming from my sitting room, as per, unless I'm in the bedroom sometimes. Now, if you want the lowdown on sex work and on me, then you've come to the right place. Subscribe, share, all that. I get so excited when I say I've got a new subscriber. Somebody unsubscribed today, and I had 22 subscribers today. Then I only had 21. Who unsubscribed? Naughty, naughty. Well, it's your loss. Anyway, this video is about running an escort agency and subsequently going to prison for it. Now, I owned an escort agency, so 12, 13 years ago. Big mistake. I'd been an escort myself for quite a few years, decided to get on the other side of the business where there's allegedly, well, there is more money, but it didn't work out that way for me. Boy, did it not. So anyway, I'm not going to go into masses of details. It's just a general sort of synopsis of the situation. And don't ever run an escort agency. It is one of the hardest things, one of the hardest and most horrible things I've ever done. I hated every second of it. And the women I had working for me seemed to hate me as well. A lot of them didn't really seem to understand that I was their boss. It was anyway that the kind of thought, why is she hanging around all? I think the thought it was somebody else's agency. Anyway, that was irritating because I'd paid good money for it and it was my agency and I was the boss. Anyway, that's not the point. It was just buggish. It's just a really, really hard business to get off the ground, and people think, oh well, it must be easy. You just get a flat somewhere, and then get a load of women. Well, where'd you get these women? You drag them in off the street. All right, I'm not going to go into masses of detail because it was just awful. It was hard. My boss had to come back into it with as my business partner to get it off the ground after a year when I was financing it myself from selling my own fanny. I still had to sell my own fanny to keep this business running. It was a disaster. I mean, men running an escort agency, oh well, they're like pigs in shit because they're shagging all the escorts. Generally, that's in my experience. The men in sex work who are involved in sex work, running it in some way behind the scenes, are all up to something, without exception. I mean, you don't need this explaining to you. You probably presume this anyway. But they're shagging all the lasses, and so I didn't want to shag them. I wanted to smack them. So a woman, I don't know, we're not in it for a woman, I've got no idea, because it was just horrible and hard and everybody hates you. And I didn't make any money. In fact, I lost a lot of money. But anyway, that's by the bypass. I went to prison for that because what I do as a sex worker isn't illegal. You can sell your fanny if you want to. And your arse and your tits and whatever else you want to sell. Your feet. But it's I was running an escort agency. In the law, this is seen as a brothel. And you're profiting off other women selling sex. Because I was taking a commission off them because I was getting them the work. So I went to prison for that. I got, that was nearly 11 years ago. And I got 8 months for that, and I did 4. What a waste of time. What a giant waste of time that was. Category A prison, 40 years old, first offence, not violent or, I wasn't a threat to society. Prison. Anyway, big waste of taxpayers' money, waste of time all round. So prison is boring. It is, and it's the fact that you're so impotent in prison, you can't run your own life anymore. I had to give power of attorney to my sister. She had to sell me flat when I was in. Long story. Don't want to go into that. Not fair. Blah, blah, blah. She sold that. But you've got no control over your life anymore. I've always run my own life. I've always been single. I've lived by myself since I was 18, whatever. And I've done everything for myself. And I you know what I mean? being that independent and that autonomous and then having to just give that up. I mean, but saying that, I mean, I can see why some people don't mind going to prison. And there is quite a lot of people in prison who try to get into prison, to be honest, it will be better than a lot of people's lives. If you've got an absolutely shockingly horrible life on the outside, going to prison is probably quite a relief, because you're fed and watered, it's warm, it's safe. You are surrounded by criminals. But in a women's prison, you know, I am obviously the types of crime that men and women go to prison for, and the kind of the issues in men and women's prisons are presumably very different. I didn't see any. Well, I saw a little bit of violence. In women's prisons, it's more self-harm. I was absolutely sick of seeing lacerated arms. By the time I left prison, I was sick and to death of seeing lacerated arms and just arms just thick with scar tissue. And actually, I remember when I got out, it was the summer when I got out, and I remember people on the outside wearing t-shirts and you know, vest tops and that. And it was funny to see just normal arms that weren't lacerated. A lot of people with mental health problems in prison that just should not be there. Just a big waste of time. Anyway, there are people who should be there, I suppose. Something should have happened to them. But in a women's prison, I think it's possibly a lot more complex than a man's prison. I'm no expert. I'm absolutely no expert. A lot of abused women in prison who've been abused since the day they were born. Anyway, I'm no expert. But prison, I was very bored in prison because everybody in there's like, I didn't have anything in common with them, as per usual. As I said in another video, everywhere I go, I'm odd woman out. And prison was no exception. They were all criminals. But they were all kind of they were drug addicts, still drug addicts. There was drugs in prison, and they go into rehab, or alcoholics and drug addicts. That's a lot of the prison population. So I was at the gym every morning. On the outside, I'm clean living. I don't do drink, drugs. I'm clean living. I'm in the gym every morning. I'm in bed by 8:30 if I can manage it, and all that. So very different lifestyles. And I was bored stiff in prison. So I did everything. I read got caught up on loads of reading. It's quite a good library in there. Read everything I could get my hands on. I resat me English GCSE, because that's the highest level of qualification I could get in there, only been in a few months. I was at the pagan group. I was going to church. The pagan group, people only went to that because the woman, it was always like some sort of feast day in pagan world. So she just used to bring in like cakes, nuts, God knows what. I love nuts. I could live on nuts. I'm nuts for nuts. But there was always food. The church, there was Easter eggs. I remember at Easter, you were just doling out Easter eggs. I don't believe in God. I was at that church every Sunday. Is you just bored stiff? I did a history course thing. The man who took it proved to be a bit of a perv. There was a promise of a job on the outside, and when I got out, and well, if I did certain things, do you know what I'm saying? The prison weren't interested in that when I reported it, but never mind. What was I saying? Yes, so I did a lot of stuff. Anything that came along, I would do it. Lesbian hotspots, the church, the back row of the so-called church. It was a porta cabin with a cross nailed up at the front. Lesbian activity, a lot of it in the church, a lot of it in the library. If you wanted to get fingered, head to the library. Toot sweet. I didn't fancy it personally, but you know, that it was available in those two vicinities, I would say. And there's probably loads of other things going on. I was oblivious because I just wanted to get out of there. It was shit. I didn't pack enough clothes as well. I didn't know what to take for a trip to prison. They give you a grey mall jogging suit, which is a boon, actually. It's a boon. but I didn't pack enough. I was ill prepared. But I didn't mind the food. I'm quite easily pleased where food's concerned. I'll eat anything. I've been a vegetarian since I was 12. That was no problem. The puddings, rhubarb crumble, apple crumble, loads of custard, or sponge puddings, and they were beautiful. They were like currency in there. There's like sugar, coffee, and those puddings. Currency, cigarettes, obviously, currency, which I didn't get involved in because I didn't want anything. I was happy with my few tea bags. I'm not the addictive type. I've tried to get addicted to things. I cannot do it. I don't have that. I don't have it in us. Other than Murder, She Wrote. I might be addicted to that. Don't know. Probably. But yes, so that was 11 years ago now. I didn't learn anything from my experience in prison other than to pack more sensibly. The next time I go to prison, I shall be more prepared. I shall probably pack more leggings, things of that type. Sort of loose casuals, mixy match loose casuals. That's what you need in prison. And a good bra, a good sports bra for when the officers can be bothered to take you over to the gym. Like they should have taken you over for half an hour every morning if you wanted to, but they couldn't be bothered. But you need a good sports bra if you're big busted like me. I was in a Category A prison. I was there with Rose West. I mean, I wasn't there with her. We weren't like soul sisters. But you used to say I'm knocking about, Rose West. So very silly, really, Rose West and me. Come on. So that was that, really. Don't commit crimes and try not to go to prison. Thank you. Goodbye.